Mangwanani Malelepo Vukenjani Klekwas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Mberi. Some of the stories we'll be looking at today, the biggest story in the world right now is Joe Biden has stepped down as the Democratic candidate for the U.S. presidency, and it seems like Kamala Harris is favored to take on that. We'll look at that in our top stories, but in other stories, entire anti-corruption board fired for alleged Zambia corruption. South African police uncover multi-million-dollar meth lab, and Kenya's Ruto retains former ministers in new cabinet appointments. OneUp2.com, DSTV 285, GoTV 25, and Network Media Hub on YouTube is precisely where you can find us. Top stories after the break. We'll also be talking to Talent Gore.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
U.S. President Joe Biden abandoned his re-election bid on Sunday under growing pressure from his fellow Democrats and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris as the party's candidate to face Republican Donald Trump in the November election. Biden, who at 81 is the oldest person ever to have occupied the Oval Office, said he would remain in the presidency until his term ended on January 2025 and would address the nation this week. Biden, who has not been seen in public since testing positive for COVID-19 last week, was isolating at his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. While it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term, Biden wrote on X. Now, the move dramatically reshapes a White House context that has been shaken repeatedly in the last month. Biden's disastrous June 27 debate performance drove his fellow Democrats to urge him to drop out. Now, in our next story, Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema has taken the extraordinary step of firing the entire board of the country's corruption-busting body after they themselves were accused of corruption, which they deny. It comes days after the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Tom Shamakamba, resigned from his post. Both he and the country's Solicitor General, Marshall Mushende, were accused of taking kickbacks. Both men strongly deny the allegations. Since Mr. Hichilema came to power 3 years ago, the authorities have been investigating a number of officials from the former government accused of graft. Now, the explosive allegations are that ACC officials have been taking payments from politicians targeted by the probe in exchange for amnesty. The whistleblower is a man named O'Brien Kaba, who was once a board member of the ACC. Now, moving on to our next story, South Africa police have uncovered an industrial-scale meth manufacturing lab in one of the country's biggest ever drug busts and arrested 4 suspects, including 2 Mexicans, they said on Saturday. The laboratory was discovered on a farm in Groblersdal, a small town in Limpopo province, the police said in a statement. They found large quantities of chemicals used in the manufacturing of illicit drugs, including acetone and crystal meth, with an estimated street value of 2 billion rand, about $109.5 million US dollars, the statement said. What makes this different from other seizures is the involvement of Mexican citizens, said Katlego Mojale, national spokesperson for the Hawks, an elite police unit which took part in the raid. Now, Kenyan President William Ruto on Friday mostly named holdovers from the cabinet he sacked last week to a new government meant to respond to the grievances of young protesters. In a televised address, Ruto announced 11 appointments, 6 from the previous cabinet, with others to follow soon. The mass firing last week was a concession to demands from youth-led protests that had already forced him to withdraw $2.7 billion in proposed tax hikes amid the biggest crisis of his 2-year presidency. presidency. The protests have resulted in more than 50 deaths since mid-June, and many demonstrators are now calling for Ruto to resign. Large protests took place again last week despite the president's concessions. Ruto reappointed the ministers of Interior, Defense, Environment and Lands and changed the portfolios of two other ministers. Now, Sandra Hem, a woman who served 43 years for a murder she did not commit, has been released after her conviction was overturned. Now, Hem was 20 at the time, found guilty in November 1980 of stabbing library worker Patricia Jeshk, then 31, to death in St. Joseph, Missouri. She received a life sentence. A recent case review revealed that her conviction was based solely on a confession made under heavy sedation in a psychiatric hospital with no other evidence linking her to the crime, according to the BBC. Now 64, Hem is believed to have endured the longest known wrongful imprisonment of a woman in American history, according to her representatives. Now, Bangladesh's top court yesterday scaled back a controversial quota system for government jobs after it led to a deadly nationwide unrest. At least 100 people are believed to have died in the violence as the government imposed a communications blackout and protesters clashed with security forces. In its verdict, the Supreme Court ordered 93% of government jobs to be allocated on merit basis. This leaves the remaining 7% earmarked for relatives of veterans who fought in Bangladesh's 1971 War of Independence and other categories. Earlier, the system reserved 30% of such jobs for the relatives of war veterans. All right, so the Zimbabwean government mobilizes $8 million from sugar tax, and we're going to be talking about that story and more directly from Zimbabwe as we talk to Talent Gore after the break.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
Talent Gore joins us now from Zimbabwe with the latest news stories. Talent Wamkase.
Wamkase Africa.
Tamuka Hedu. Now, the Zimbabwean government has mobilized over $8 million from sugar tax.
Yes, the Zimbabwean government has mobilized over $8 million United States dollars from the recently introduced sugar tax, and the sugar tax money is going to fund, or rather is going towards, the procurement of cancer machines and anything to do with cancer. So the funds are now set to be deployed towards the procurement of vital cancer diagnosis, care and treatment equipment, and medication for public hospitals countrywide. The Treasury, which is the Zimbabwe Finance Ministry, introduced the finance tax in the 2024 national budget in response to growing concerns about the negative health impacts of consuming sugary beverages. The revenue generated by the sugar tax has been specifically ring-fenced for cancer treatment initiatives in the public health system. The funds are now set to be used to purchase equipment for diagnosis as well as essential medication and supplies needed to provide effective care for cancer patients. Also, the Health and Childcare Minister said that the funds will also bolster Zimbabwe's cancer treatment programs, as I've reported countless times that Zimbabwe actually right now we do not have working chemotherapy machines or radiotherapy machines. So this sugar tax money will go a long way to ensure that the health system, in particular to get to the response to cancer, to go a long way in helping those in need. or the drugs and radiotherapy and chemotherapy treatment.
Yes, yes, indeed. We certainly hope that that money lands where it ought to. Now, in your other story, Talent, Zimbabwe has deported 3 Chinese nationals who were videoed torturing mine workers.
Yes, well, this is not the first time that Chinese have been caught on camera torturing mine workers who are blacks who are Zimbabweans. So, Zimbabwe on Saturday deported 3 Chinese nationals after they were filmed torturing a mine worker in Bindura. Wang Lam, Jian and Liu were all linked to the incident where a worker at Makanga mine in Bindura had his hands tied by rope to the bucket of a front end loader before he was hoisted into the air as punishment for allegedly stealing diesel. Apparently, Lam was an investor resident permit due to was a resident, but his permit had expired in March, and Nan had a business visitors entry certificate, whilst the other one was an engineer for the business. So apparently they were all deported on Saturday. And this is not the first time that the Chinese have been filmed torturing or even beating mine workers in Zimbabwe. This is just one of those cases whereby the said perpetrators, the said Chinese, have been deported. But there are so many cases that are being reported whereby the Chinese are torturing their mine workers and nothing is being done about it. But this time around, the Miners Federation of Zimbabwe said that it was unlawful what they were doing, and there was outrage which then led to them being deported. So we just hope that this is the first of many deportations that are going to take place, because these torturings by the Chinese have been going on for quite a long time now, especially within the mining sector, especially those small scale miners that are being tortured every day, and reports are being made, but nothing is being done. So this is the first time that the government has actually deported the perpetrators.
Yes, truly horrific and inhumane, and we hope justice can be served. Thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the news stories from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
All right. Before we talk about some more Zimbabwean news, particularly how cash flows in the country, that's going to be in our economic news stories. Let's first head over to the weather predictions. Now, at least once a month, or sometimes as often as 3 times a week, a private plane lands in a secure port of Robert Gabriel Mugabe International Airport on the outskirts of the Zimbabwe capital, Harare, carrying millions of US dollars. Now, the pallets of cash are unloaded, broken down into packages, and then distributed to transfer points across the country. This unusual but legal operation, organized by the country's biggest mobile money app, Mukuru, illustrates how far companies will go to accommodate customers seeking to avoid the local currency in one of the world's most dysfunctional economies. Africa's mobile money sector has grown rapidly over the last 2 decades and now processes around $912 billion a year, according to GSMA, a global research and lobby group for mobile operators. But while most fintechs focus on sending money digitally, the ones in Zimbabwe also fill a different niche. They help Zimbabweans get their hands on physical US dollars. All right, that is our economic news stories. Let's head over to economic indicators and we'll be right back. It's time to get the latest from the sporting world from the one and only Ari Hogat. How's it going, Ari?
Yes, very good morning, Ashwin. Yes, nice to talk to the one and only Ashwin. Yes, lovely, lovely morning this morning. Good results. Namibia won the rugby. That was positive.
Yes, indeed. Without a doubt, I was still laughing at the Bantu relationship with the letter L and R. It's very consistent. But Namibia doing well in rugby, do give us more.
Yes, indeed. It was it's the Africa Cup being played in Uganda, and the result for Namibia, it's basically a quarter final. There's going to be a semi-final on Wednesday. The quarter final, Namibia beat Burkina Faso by 38 points to 5. It will get significantly more challenging on Wednesday. They play against the Zimbabwe Sables. The Sables beat the host Uganda by 22 points to 20. Tight game, but a good result for Zimbabwe. So semi-finals on Wednesday will be Namibia there. Namibia will play against Zimbabwe, and Kenya will play against Algeria. So nice rugby to look forward to. And other international rugby over the weekend, it was the so-called smaller unions that had a chance to face up against higher ranked opposition. That's the All Blacks in action. They played against Fiji in San Diego in America, and it was New Zealand that beat Fiji convincingly 47 points to 5. And it was the Springboks that played against Portugal. Remember, Portugal last year in the World Cup in France actually beat Fiji. And it was the South Africans that played 78 minutes with 14 men after early red card. So they beat Portugal 64-21. And then other results also played. Australia beat Georgia 40 points to 29. Scotland beat Chile 50-11. And then last year, Argentina too strong for Uruguay 79 points to 5. So that's all international rugby that took place over the weekend. On to Tour de France. It was an amazing Tour de France, and it was quite dominated by Tadej Pogačar. And Tadej Pogačar even won the last stage, the 21st stage. He won the time trial. It's him there in the yellow jersey. And he dominated by winning by 6 minutes and 17 seconds over his second place competitor, Jonas Vingegaard. Vingegaard won last year. So that is Tadej Pogačar. He celebrated also a great achievement, the first time since 1998 that a cyclist won both the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France in 1 year. So he's clearly dominating the world of cycling at the moment, and well done. That's his third title, by the way. So he's on top of the world on the cycle. On to golf news, a big one. It was the British Open that was played at Royal Troon, the 152nd Open that was played. And that is the South African Tristan Lawrence. He was in contention till late in the last 9, but unfortunately he finished 4th. Great performance by him. The winner was Xander Schauffele. Xander Schauffele also won the PGA a few months ago, the US PGA. So it was Xander Schauffele with a -9 total after the 4 rounds. Justin Rose and Billy Horschel -7 in second position, and then Tristan Lawrence on -6. So great performance by the South African in that tournament. That is Justin Rose. He finished just 2 shots back of Xander Schauffele. Apologies. And on to motor racing news. It is Formula One. After the whole of 2023, I kept on saying on Mondays, Max Verstappen won again. I think I did it 22 times out of 23 times. And now there's a variation at least, and there's nice competition. You can see there the 2 orange cars on the inside there. That is McLaren, big time challenging Max Verstappen, Red Bull now. And it was Oscar Piastri in his McLaren that won the Hungarian Grand Prix over the weekend on Sunday, and Lando Norris second in his McLaren. Those are the 2. They were a bit grumpy afterwards. It was Lando Norris on the right there that had to concede a place on 3 laps to go to have Piastri going past. A bit of a complicated scenario of sequences of team orders there that had to do with pit stops where that Piastri was negatively impacted. But anyway, in the end, it was Oscar Piastri that won, Lando Norris second, Lewis Hamilton, great performance by him again on the podium, 3rd position with Mercedes-Benz, and Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen had a little bit of a get-together as well, the car of Max Verstappen going airborne, and Max Verstappen ending, he did finish, so he finished in 5th position, Charles Leclerc in 4th. So at the moment, Max Verstappen still leads by 76 points over Lando Norris. So lots of action there. That's the sports news. Hope it's a great sport day for everyone, and good luck for Namibia against the Zimbabwe Stables on Wednesday. We talk again in the week. Bye-bye.
All right, I'll keep my eyes closed for that one, and I'll be happy however the result goes. Highlights after the break.
eTicket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nhh.com.na.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning throughout the broadcast. Let's have a look at some of the highlights. Entire anti-corruption board fired for alleged Zambia corruption. South African police uncover multi-million-dollar meth lab. Fintechs fly planes of cash into Zimbabwe to meet demand for US currency. All right, now another highlight, an important highlight, a beautiful diamond-like highlight, was the crowning of Miss Namibia 2024, Priska Anyolo, who becomes a global ambassador for the land of the brave after her crowning in Luderitz on Saturday. Now, we from Africa Good Morning would like to wish her well in her endeavors and extend our congratulations to her and her first princess, Lena Mugena, as well as second princess, Georgia Gadises. And I do think it's worth mentioning that Priska Anyolo was actually a presenter here at NMH, and we absolutely are backing her throughout her reign. From me, Ashwin Bedi, and the Africa Good Morning team, Swera Jakanaka.